Jesus went across the Sea of Galilee. A great multitude followed him because they saw the signs he was performing on the sick. Jesus went up on the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. The time of the Jewish feast of Passover was near. When Jesus raised his eyes and saw that a large crowd was coming to him, he said to Philip, "Where can we buy enough food to feed these people?" He said this to test him, because he himself knew what he was going to do. Philip answered him, 200 days' wages worth of food would not be enough for each of them to have even a little bit. One of his disciples, Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, said to him, "There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what good are they for so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people recline." Now there was a great deal of grass in this place, so then the men reclined, about 5,000 of them. Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed them to those who were reclining, and also as much of the fish as they wanted. When they had had their fill, he said to his disciples, "Gather the fragments left over, so that nothing will be wasted." So they collected them and filled 12 wicker baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves that had been more than they could eat. When the people saw the sign he had done, they said, "This is truly the prophet who has come into the world." Since Jesus knew they were going to come and carry him off to make him king, he withdrew again to the mountains alone. My brothers and sisters, the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Please be seated.
It's not allowed.
Yeah. The organizers of the liturgy has been very generous enough to me for having me preach, be at the altar 2 Sundays in a row. This time I'm supposed to help Father Ginapa preach. But you don't need any help preaching. Yeah, well, sometimes Father Ginapa said, I have a strong accent. Well, I said, you know, I'm also an ESL. I wasn't born here. And I remember in the Roman Catholic Church, I used to go out and celebrate masses in different places. And there were sisters who asking me, when they like you, they ask you to celebrate their mass in the convent. So speaking of accent, I was in the church in the Philippines, and I was waiting for the sisters to pick me up for the mass. And I was praying, and then one guy walked in, and then he approached me and said, "Are you depressed?" I said, "No, why would I? I'm great, I'm okay. I am the driver of the Carmelite sisters, and they asked me to pick up the breast." Oh. In that case, I said, "I'm depressed." Speaking of accent. So I took note of that, so I said, I won't say that when I'm in the US. So today we're invited to reflect on 4 different kinds of hunger that the second book of Kings mentioned with the prophet Elisha. Is that Elisha or Elisha? Elisha. Okay. When he spoke to the farmer who gave him 20 loaves of barley, which was really very difficult to produce. He had to work with nature to be able to do that. And he thanked God for that, and he offered it to the prophet. And then he said, "Thank you for the gift offering, but I don't need it. Give it to the poor. Give it to the people who are hungry. Feed them." And so this prophet said, 20 is enough for 100 hungry people. And then God said, was that? I think Elisha said, "It is not you who will be giving the food, it's God. For thus says the Lord, if you give, there will be more, there will be plenty." And so they were able to feed 100 people who were hungry with 20 loaves of barley bread. So the hunger for food was there. And when we reflect in our lives, there is a hunger for food. But if we calculate like Elisha and the farmer, when we calculate and we think we can do it ourselves to feed the poor and the hungry, then there will not be enough. But if we let God feed the poor and the hungry, there is enough food for everybody. And there is even more food than what we can expect. But we have to let God feed the poor. The problem is, we ourselves, instead of feeding the poor, we create a system to feed our selfishness, to feed our ego, to feed our greed. That's why there is not enough food for everybody. Why? Because we want to do it ourselves. And what we have learned in our society right now is, when we try to do it ourselves, we just accumulate, and there's more and more people who are hungry. Why? Because we're not allowing God to feed the people. All the richness of nature that God has given us, we are not giving it back to the people. Why? We want it all for ourselves. I was really shocked when I saw that 2/3 of the world's goods is consumed by one country. And I said, okay, I'm in it. So what do I do? So probably we should, in our Peace and Justice Committee in Claudia, we said, we must think locally. What's that? We must think globally, and we have to act locally. Why? Because if we look around us, there's more need than what we can respond to. So the need for food to satisfy our hunger. St. Paul speaks a different need of hunger. He speaks about the need, the hunger for unity, for peace and justice. He speaks about that. And he speaks about the unity of all the Christians into one baptism. And we are all called to that unity, to respond to the need of unity among us. So the problem with us is, again, when we put our system into it, do we negotiate for peace and unity? When we depend ourselves on these negotiators, what do? St. Paul says, to be able to establish peace and unity, you have to have, what did the second reading say? You have to have humility. You have to have patience. You have to have bearing with one another. So you have to have, I forgot the other one, what? You have to have those things. Humility, you have to have, I remember when you dialogue, and when you try to create unity among us, instead of humility, you put in our pride. No? They say, after all the discussions to build unity in St. Matthew, everybody agreed to do it my way. Where's the unity there? Then just do it the way we decided to do here. Do it. Don't follow. Don't think, just follow. Okay, that's it. So you feel like, okay, are we doing this or what? So humility also means that most of the situations happening in our society right now, when we dialogue, we try to bully everybody, and we try to impose on them what we want. So that's a problem when pride and selfishness walks into that hunger for unity. Instead of building more unity, we create more closed sessions so that the rest cannot know what we're talking about. Are we in here for service, or are we in here for prestige and authority and power? So I said, I know some of the meetings that we have in St. Matthew, you can do it yourself, so that's why we can be exclusive among yourselves. But sometimes we forget that it's a service. So we think that we alone can do it. We don't need the others. So. And then unity, humility, peace, and bearing with one another. We have to know, I told Father Ginapa, you have to keep on preaching. Two things will happen. Or the congregation will get used to you, or you will improve your English. Keep on preaching. Because I was surprised when he chanted the first time, oh, I can't do that. I said, Father Ginapa can do it. So we need to look more into that need that we have as a unified body. I keep telling everybody, St. Matthew is strong because somebody built among us for 33 years who's been hammering that to us, that all are welcome, all are accepted. And that somebody now is very sick, and we should be praying for him. Because we are strong when we become really St. Matthew. Then we will become weak, and we will cause more division, or exclusivism, dissension, women priests separated from the men priests, the lay separated from the clergy. I've never seen St. Matthew so threatened like in the last 2 months. So let's just relax, let God work through us, through our talents, and let's all put it on the table, and God will build unity. Because it's not really us who will create the unity, but it's God among us. Just put all the talents that you have at the service of the community. Don't think about who's better than who. Just put it there. And you will see, you will build up on the foundations that Bishop Peter let it build for the last 33 years in St. Matthew. And then in the gospel, Jesus Christ also saw the need of the community because more and more people were running after him because they saw what he did to the sick, to the poor, to the possessed, and to those who are needing of health in their spiritual growth. So Jesus Christ focused on the hunger for healing. We are hurting as a community, but now we have to focus on that Jesus Christ to heal us. It's not we, the priest, who will heal you. We're also hurting. We're shocked. We're like, I hope Bishop Peter will recover fast. We're all like that. No? So we all need healing. But it is not the clergy, not the parish council. Jesus Christ will heal us. And we're asking for a miraculous healing. Miraculous healing. Okay? So we all need to be healed. I would strongly suggest that you join the initiatives of Mother Martha in the healing masses that she's doing. They're really refreshing. I was stressed out and I stood before Mother Gibby. She put her hand on my head and I was like, this priest has a healing power. And you should join that too, every now and then. Make a conscientious effort to participate in the healing mass. Because in the end, it's not us healing, it's Jesus Christ healing us. We are what we call, the following example of Jesus Christ, we are wounded healers. We are hurting, we have our own problems, our own difficulty, but through the grace of God we received in St. Matthew, we can heal one another. And I firmly believe that because I've seen it happening in the last 15 years in St. Matthew. When Jesus Christ was able to feed the multitude, they were saying, comparing it to the first reading, 100, Jesus Christ fed 5,000. First thing he did was, he said, ask the people to sit down. In the olden days, slaves eat standing up. Nowadays, hardworking people eat standing up. No, they only have how many? 15-minute, 30-minute lunch break? 30 minutes. 30 minutes. So it's two golf, go, and then go back to the right.
I get an hour.
Yeah, you get an hour. Great, good for you. So when he asked the community, the 5,000 followers that was after him before the Passover, that's why he was able to attract a lot of people. They're going to the Passover, feast of the Passover. He led everybody to sit down. So when you invite somebody to sit down at the table with you, you are recognizing that somebody is equal to you. Do you invite everybody in your house to sit at your table? No. You just ask people who are dear to you, who are close to you, right? Or no? Or if some uninvited guest shows up, well, they can stay in the living room, but not in my kitchen. You stay there. I'll be hospitable to you. So Jesus Christ recognized the dignity of each people, and then through the mediation of, who was the disciple who brought in the boy with 5 loaves and 2 dried fish? Philip, Andrew, one of the brothers. Philip and Andrew, they said, look, but we only have this. And then Jesus Christ offered it to everybody, and you know what happened. The miracle happened. Okay? So, when that miracle happened, everybody was delighted with Jesus Christ, and they wanted to carry him and make him king. So what did he do? He responded to another hunger that he had, which is his hunger for mission. He's not in it for prestige. He's not in it for political gain. He's not in it for positions, prestigious positions. Because these things will not satisfy your hunger for the mission. So he withdrew himself and he disappeared to isolate himself so that he can communicate with God. Hunger for mission. So when we look into our lives, we look at these three kinds of hunger. It is not us who will respond to these hunger. Hunger for food, hunger for unity, hunger for healing, and hunger for the mission. It is God in our lives. So we have to be in constant communication with God to be able to respond to that. In the liturgy, we ritualize it. That's what I like about being Catholic, the ritual, because it speaks to me, it talks to me, the liturgy. We ritualize that offering, so we focus our attention to this boy who brought in 5 loaves and 2 fishes. So we have ritualized that in our Mass, when we come together and offer the gift of bread and wine, which are the fruit of our own labor. So Pope Francis says that when we come to the part of the offering, we have to change our attitude. Offering is not only like a rest between the liturgy of the Word and the liturgy of the Eucharist. It's a preparation for the liturgy of the Eucharist. So when we come to the offertory part of the Mass, we have to make our commitment. So if we believe, we offer the bread and wine, and the priest bless it, and it becomes the body and blood of Jesus Christ. But we don't only offer the bread and wine, we also offer our work, alms. We give it to the church. Why? Because we believe in the mission of that church to respond to the needs of the poor. So what you get, what you give to the church is taken so that the church will continue its mission to reach out to the poor. I've never seen priests so involved outside of St. Matthew than the priest of St. Matthew. I haven't seen any priest in the Diocese of California who are so involved outside of St. Matthew doing acts of charity. So we have to continue to support, to make that statement and that commitment when we offer a gift. I'm really saddened by, I keep telling the Spanish community, everything you offer there will not go to the pocket of Father Arturo. Because once you tell them what kind of Catholics we are, and the priests are married, they think differently. That's why some of us prefer, well, let's not tell them. Okay? But when you tell them, they will think everything you give will go to the priest who's married to sustain his family. You say, whoa. $200 collection. I don't think it's enough, no? So, but when we offer, we make a statement. We value this, and we give our resources, because everything that we have really belongs to God. And the more we give, the more God will take care of us. When I was asked by Bishop Peter 15 years ago, he said, Father Arturo, can you be my associate? Sure. But I can't pay your salary. Sure. I said, you take care of the Spanish community, and then you create your own income and resource, and hopefully we'll take it from there. I said, sure, no problem. And I've never felt so secure in my life, not even when I was a Roman Catholic priest, with my insurance, health insurance, and everything taken care of. I've never felt so secure when I transferred to St. Matthew. And now we are helping the congregation where I came from. I said, oh, so when you really give to God, and you continue with the mission of God, and you respond to that hunger for mission, God will really take care of you. There is more in abundance. You can even collect 12 baskets, excess, of what you share. So we make that statement as St. Matthew, and I'm really very proud that over the years, St. Matthew has given more than $2 million to Sheila Aid. Where did that came from? We have our need as a community, but look, when you start opening yourself and being generous to God, God will take care of the rest. And you can take that to the back. Okay? So today we ask God to respond. First we ask ourselves, what are the different missions that we need? Like, what are the different hunger that we need to respond to as St. Matthew community? one a day. And the other thing is, how can we avoid using our mission to help the poor for our self-interest, for our own self-interest? But instead of promoting the mission, we are promoting ourselves. How can we do that? And we look into our lives as a community, and we offer to God our limitations, our resources, our talents, so that He will continue to build up this lovely and fine community of St. Matthew that we have. That we were nurtured, we were fed, we were responded to in our need, and we were oriented to reach out to one another so that we can be brothers and sisters to everybody. So we ask the Lord to bless us in this 17th Sunday of Ordinary Time, that we can have more humility, we'll have more work for peace, justice, we'll have patience and bearing with one another, so that we can continue to create that sacred space that we have built up in these last 33 years of St. Matthew. Amen.
Amen.